some detail on a deal we probably worked on about 12 months ago, and I've done a bit of a then and now. So, and I would actually dispute that potentially now you wouldn't even get this deal potentially funded. So it was an 80 apartment project within 5 k's of the Brisbane CBD. The debt piece back then would have been about 19 million for that project, about an 80% TDC, LVR of about 65%. Now, if you actually got a bank, and as I said earlier, you got that one offer from a bank, you'd probably be looking at potentially about $15 million of debt. You can see that the total development cost and LVR has come right down. And also the big change, which is working against it, is that your pre-sale level has gone from 75% of debt cover, which would be about 32 sales, to 120%, which is about 40 sales. So not only are you $4 million short, and most developers don't actually have access to that additional capital, you've actually got to go and make more sales in a market where the sales are starting to slow. So once again, something like this can be funded, but certainly there's been a bit of a crunch on both the amount of debt available and obviously the sales that need to be made. Anecdotally, I was talking to a large developer in Brisbane about a fortnight ago, and I was having a chat to him about obviously having a bit of a presentation today, and they're still ploughing ahead with all their projects, but he said that basically all their deals that they were doing 2, 3, 4 years ago, where they needed to put about 8 to 10 million of equity into a deal, now that's basically gone up 3 times. So it's around that $25 to $30 million mark. So obviously, unless you've got a huge amount of capital at your disposal to go into the project, you'll just find a lot of people just won't end up getting those projects going just through sheer inability to have that access to the additional funds. As I mentioned before, there's a fair bit of interest from the non-traditional lenders at the moment, and we're seeing a bit of a tipping point for quite a few developers where they own the site, and as Alice was talking about, own a site, maybe there's no income on the site, they've gone and done their sales and marketing, they've got a builder, they're sort of ready to go, and they've spent a lot of money, and it's at the tipping point of the market now where some of these guys actually cannot stop the project and they need to get it finished. So what we're finding is we're doing quite, I reckon 18 months ago, every 10 construction deals that we were doing, I was probably doing 8 through the major banks and probably 2 through private mortgage funds or investment banks. That's probably flipped around now. Out of every 10 construction deals we're doing, probably 8 of them are down the non-traditional lending and 2 would be to the major banks. So certainly a huge change. This small project I've got here is pretty exemplary of actually what we have been seeing. So 20 apartment complex in Brisbane, debt of about 6 mil. The LVR was about 80% of the total development cost. Establishment fee of 3%, which is obviously does sting the project a bit, but if you're so far down the path onto doing your development, then you sort of just got to keep going on. Interest rate about 10.5. No pre-sales required, so certainly allows, particularly if you're a builder developer, to get going straight away. Obviously, you are taking on some risks that you are backing yourself that you can sell that project along the way. And then I just know the appetite from the lenders from that. I mean, a deal like that at the moment, I could probably get that set at 10 to 15 different lenders. So certainly the appetite and the capital coming from the private markets is very strong, and it's sort of come down to a bit at the moment with a few of the guys that we're dealing with on brokering on their debt deals is the debt is available, but can you stomach the terms that are on offer from the lender? So that's sort of what it's coming down to at the moment. Just a bit of an update on a commercial deal that we've done recently, pretty vanilla. Funds management business, non-recourse lending, which is obviously not always a flavour from the banks, but they're on a funds management business where obviously it's a syndicate where there's a multitude of investors in it. They're happy to take on non-recourse exposure. Northern New South Wales shopping centre, anchored by an IGA. The WALE was about 10 years. Service station on the site as well. The debt's about 28 mil, so the LVR on that was 60. Basically, out of all the banks that are making offers at the moment, you've probably got 2 or 3 that are happy to leave it at 60% for the full 3-year term of the loan. Probably the other ones that are making offers are probably more looking at starting at 60 and moving back to 55% over the term of the loan. And on that, the establishment fee is about 40 points, and the margin on the interest is about 195. So probably 2 years ago, we were sort of doing probably worse assets than this, and the margins were probably down around that 145, 150 mark. So, even though I think that's just a sign that the capital markets that the banks are getting their funding from has probably gone up a little bit in the last 2 years as well. But certainly strong interest in this, and and as I've talked to any of our clients coming in, particularly in the commercial and in investment space, looking for debt, you've just got to tender this out and just receive the best offers that you possibly can.